axle of infinite space is the prince, priest, the beast, and in his woman called the Scarlet Woman is all power given. They shall gather my children to their fold. The elite claim legitimate succession. Bring the glory so I think that this book is into the hall. A bunch of money. You lectured America on giving Obama giving them a bunch of money. Come on, Devane. So hold on, Marshall. Let's have this conversation. Yeah, so they're two separate things. So there's one is like the release of frozen assets. In terms of sanctions are just something that's either in place or not in place. It's not a control of money. If the United States decides, so the financial sanctions aren't a control of money. Wow. Okay. So it's not the idea that the U.S. says, okay, we're going to approve this transfer of money or not. Either the sanction is in place saying that you can't have those types of transactions, or you can. No, it is. So you have no clue what you're talking about. So when there's financial sanctions in place, we have financial sanctions right now with Russia. Okay, what happens whenever a transaction comes through? The U.S. is the one that says, hey, this is under sanction. We have to review it. And they can release it and push it through if they want to, or say no. Until they know the request for money. It's all part of their intel. That's part of SWIFT. No, but this guy said that doesn't occur. That's not what I said. But you did. You said they don't control. No, I said that it's either there or it's not. It's there or it's not. No, what I said. No, that's not what I said. I said if you lift the sanction. No, what I just said is either there or it's not. Okay, it's not what I said. What I said was, no, I'm not lying. What I said is if you lift the sanction, if the sanction is no longer there, then the U.S. is not saying on an individual basis, oh, is this transfer okay? Is that transfer? But that's what the MOU says. Okay. If you read it, it actually says based on performance. Based on performance, the sanctions will be released. So they're in control of what sanctions need to be released. They're in control of mine. And it's interesting that Marshall is parroting the talking points of many of the rhinos that are talking about it without actually reading the full MOU. It's incredible. But, Obama basically sent cash money to them with no control over where that money goes, who it goes. That's money that the U.S. had full control over, and U.S. banks had to close down essentially for one day to get enough money to be able to send it over there in a jet to go over it. Here, the U.S. banks aren't sending money to them. What's happening is Qatar and other countries in the region, including Saudi Arabia, and Rafi, you and I spoke about this. They all have a vested interest in rebuilding Iran. We spoke about this a week ago. They've all talked about wanting to rebuild Iran, saying that we can build Iran into a new Dubai or a new type of UAE type thing and make it into a flourishing country. But the Middle East, and we talked about the Middle East being the new world order, right? You remember, Rafi, we had that long conversation about how the world order's changed, right? And so what does this do? This says that, okay, Qatar is sending the money. The U.S. is still involved in what's going through. Other countries are giving money and assets. There's going to be venture capital firms and other places where money is coming in that way. And what's happening? It's being controlled. It's not just cash and piles of money and saying, Iran, do whatever the hell you want with it, and then we have no control over where the money goes because we gave them cash. Here you're doing financial transactions, which Rafi pointed out, through SWIFT and other areas where you know where that money's going. There's a traceability point to it. You can argue saying that the amount is very high, but if you actually read any of these alleged MOUs,
because I move funds all around the world, to Europe, to South America, Asia, and everything in U.S. dollars. And every time I move U.S. dollars, it goes to an intermediate bank into the U.S., depending, it's either Bank of America, Chase, whatever. My bank is associated with whichever bank in America. And it goes to an intermediate bank. I even have to provide them. Like they ask me for a reason. Why am I like moving this X amount of funds to this place? I say I'm paying an invoice. I usually write the invoice number for the recipient to get to be on file, and they basically it goes from my country. It doesn't go directly to that country. It goes first into the U.S. It takes about 24 hours for the U.S. to approve that transaction, and if the U.S. approves that transaction, the U.S. dollars flow into that bank account that I basically am trying to get the funds to. So U.S. With the SWIFT, they know every single dollar when the American dollar gets moved around for what it's getting moved around, and so it doesn't get used for terrorism or anything.
And Rafi, just to be clear on that, just so you know, is that was what was initially proposed by, if you read the initial drafts and the reporting of the drafts of the JCOPA, which I'm sure Marshall probably doesn't remember it, but at the time they talked about doing those digital transactions, and Iran disagreed. Iran said, we want you to give cash. And so part of the deal was, okay, we're going to send you a plane full of cash. And then everyone goes, well, it was just their money anyway. It was frozen money that was theirs. Well, yeah, it was theirs as a punishment. It was their money that we froze as punishment for hostages that some of them they didn't release, and some of them were killed later on that we punished them for. And so, yeah, we released that money to them, and we gave more, but the U.S. financial system took a strain for 1 or 2 days to give them that money. So that was in cash. And so you're right, Rafi, that this is going to go through a digital mechanism, which gives us more traceability to what happened. And it's not coming from, the United States directly.
Implemented after 9/11.
Correct. So Obama did this in 2016, 2014.
What is it?
When she smiles, she turns me the fuck on. That's a pretty face that I wanna fuck on.
Correct, but
That bitch super thick, that's the way I like it. I know all about your tricks, so don't you fucking try it.
It was implemented for a terrorism purpose.
You're right.
Way back when, but that was a different methodology.
But anyways, I agree with what you said about Obama. What I find interesting though is, and I guess you would agree, right, that the funds that Obama was releasing were frozen Iranian assets. It wasn't like he was giving them U.S. money. He was giving them access to their own money that the U.S. government had frozen, right?
Well, and he released sanctions.
This is super dog. This is the super cheesy.
Transactions and things like that, which, he allowed Iranian businessmen who had money locked up here, Iranian, bank accounts and things here to be unfrozen. So that money, same thing, kind of what you're saying Trump is doing, except the difference here is Trump is basically saying, hey, Qatar, you want to give them money? No problem. You give the money to the United States. Right, this is how Rafi kind of tried to break it down. You give the money to the United States, goes to U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank then sends it over there. What does that do in doing that, Rafi? That gives the U.S. control from point of origin to when they receive it.
They get to monitor where the funds are being allocated to, and like that they're not being used for any terrorism.
This is super dog. This is the
And it stays in the
cheesy.
digital world, so in the sense of
Onions
somebody that
grilled and
Bitcoin, so that stays in that kind of the Swift banking world. So suppose they're going to
French fries we partake.
right, suppose a contractor, I mean, says, okay, we'll use this contractor to rebuild this energy facility or something that, was destroyed by the war. Right? Well, okay, they're going to use the same online payment. It's not like they have cash in their pocket and somebody's meeting them in a back room and taking a bag of that and saying, okay, let's go bomb Israel, which is what
This is
Obama did.
super dog.
Right, Obama took their money, but don't forget he gave them cash. There's no traceability into where that money was, how much
This
went,
is super
who
dog.
took the money. There's no traceability to that because he gave them cash. That's a dirty deal.
The best way of doing it.
Do you think the U.S. Should have held out more and gotten actual concessions on the nuclear issues rather than just giving a ceasefire for 60 days?
So according to the reports I'm seeing, what's being reported on the
Israeli bombers in the air. There were two.
Yeah.
So according to what I've read, and you probably read the same thing, that the and other stuff they agreed to destroy, and that the U.S. would have control over that destruction. Did you read that as well, Rafi?
Did not read that one.
Okay, so that's being reported. Let me see if I can find the source. That's being reported. Again, I don't know if it's true because I haven't read it. So
This is the super
But that's my point, because
This is the
a lot of this seems to be pushed back to future talks. So like there's talks presumably starting next week on the nuclear talks. But should that have been a condition prior to the peace
I think you
agreement?
realize it.
I think it's an agreement. Okay, so not really.
Come on up and ask a question.
Multiple times.
Well, if you could do that, they'd get nuked. Okay. He also
He's
raised
destroyed their neighborhood.
Iran agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. Also, the US is paying $3 million is fake news.
never satisfied.
300 million.
Yeah, but
300 billion.
that was Iran's position before the war. They haven't changed their state. They've always said that they're not interested in developing a nuclear
And
bomb.
yet they started developing facilities to build a nuclear.
That's my point. Exactly.
Right. So their position is that, but now their facilities are decimated. Whereas when Obama signed the deal, their facilities weren't decimated and they were growing their facilities. Do you see the difference or no?
No, I do, and I agree. I think it's a good thing to destroy those facilities. What I'm saying is I'm asking for more, not less.
I think the whole thing's dead in the water because it's between the U.S. and Iran, and it says hostilities will cease, including those in Lebanon, which requires Israel to be a party to it. And the Prime Minister of Iran said, well, we expect Israel to withdraw, which ain't happening anytime soon.
That goes back to the title of the room. Should Israel give back the land that they took from Southern
Well,
Lebanon?
should they keep it is different than should they continue to occupy it.
So Fox
Yeah,
News
and
correspondent, take it for what it's worth, Aisha Hasni writes, from White House official, nuclear material will be destroyed and removed. Nuclear program will be dismantled. None of their money will be released until they perform. Strait of Hormuz will be open and no Iranian funding of terrorist groups. This is all in the MOU, not what was released, the actual MOU.
Yeah, but that's based on these future talks that are going to take place.
But it's in the MOU. So it's saying that this is things that they agreed to now, and then the
Which
future
MOU
talks.
are you referring to?
Agreed to.
There's a released one that didn't include the language you just said.
I'm just repeating what this reporter said.
Yeah,
I mean, the White House website didn't officially release it, though. Just so you know.
I mean, the point is,
too. I have a question. Should I ask? Okay, so I have a question. Everything you guys say, let's say it's correct. Let's say it's true. Trump is making a deal. All of this. What is Trump gonna do if a week from now, 2 weeks from now, before the 60 days is out? What will Trump do if the Iranian people, just like back in January, storm the streets to overthrow the government? Because keep something in mind, yes, they do kill people and all that stuff, but U.S. and Israel spent 2 months bombing 30,000 targets, and those are every single target the government of Iran needed to repress the people. So what's going to happen there? Are we going to send troops on the ground to help IRGC kill its people?
Well, the MOU says no involvement in the other countries in terms